Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbia online. We are gathered on Zoom this morning, recognizing that our congregation is not a building, but a community of beloved ones near and far who are gathered together in the spirit of love to find meaning and comfort and spiritual sustenance together with one another. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I invite you to say hello to one another in the chat. If you'd like to greet one another, say where you're tuning in from. Make sure to set your chat settings to everyone. Otherwise, only the panelists see what you have to say. We'll keep the chat on for most of the service today so that you can say hello to one another. I want to let you know that our Zoom worship setting is the webinar setting, which means that we can't see or hear you. It's fine if there's loud noises at home, if you're on the couch in jammies, that would be fine anyways, but just know that, that you're seeing us and we're not seeing you, and we hope that that allows you to have a full and comfortable experience of our service this morning. I'd like to particularly welcome anyone who is visiting us, whether for the first time or whether you've started visiting us while we've been online. It's so good to be connecting with some new folks and using the odd opportunities in this strange time to know that there is good that can and will come of these times. For folks who are visiting for the first time today and who might be interested in getting connected with some of our other programs, I'm going to post a link in the chat to a little online visitor card so that you can give us your info, let us know what you might be interested in learning about, and we will try to get you hooked up. So that is coming into the chat right now. There is a link there for those who would like to fill out our online visitor card. This morning is our annual flower communion service, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. But just want to begin by saying hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us in all your varied beauty from wherever you are joining us. And we will begin with our prelude from our musician Hans. So please settle in, take a deep breath, and fully join this time and place together.
We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of us grow in bunches, and some of us grow alone. Some of us are cupped inward, and some of us spread ourselves out wide. Some of us are old and dried and tougher than we appear. And some of us are still in bud. Some of us grow low to the ground, and some of us stretch ourselves to the sun. Some of us feel like weeds sometimes. Some of us carry seeds sometimes. Some of us are prickly sometimes. Some of us smell. And all of us are beautiful. What a bouquet of people we are.
Amen. What a bouquet of people we are. Thank you, Jamila, for that fun video. So good morning, everyone. This morning we celebrate our annual Flower Communion service, which has been a part of our heritage since it was created in 1923 by Czech Unitarian minister Norbert Capek. Capek wanted to create a ritual that would bind people more closely together across their many different backgrounds and experiences. And walking in the countryside one day, he was inspired by the diverse beauty of the flowers growing there, and he created this ritual. People were asked to bring a flower of their choice, either from their own gardens or from the field or roadside. When they arrived at church, each person was asked to place their own flower in a large vase. This signified that it was by their own free will they joined with others. After the service, as people left the church, they went to the vase and each took a flower other than the one they had brought, signifying that as no two flowers are alike, so no two people are alike, yet each has a contribution to make. Together, many different flowers form a beautiful bouquet, and our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower. Our flower communion, practiced these almost 100 years, is a symbol of radical hope. That even in the face of fear and division, we will always continue to find beauty and worth in our differences and in our shared commitment to the practice of fierce and growing love. And that it matters that we choose to gather, no matter how it is we gather. In these times, our sense of communion with one another is different. And yet our shared commitment is as essential as it ever was. Our celebration of this historic ceremony, even as global pandemic requires us to find creative ways to share while apart, is proof that our hope is not in our physical presence, but in the irrepressible beauty of the human spirit and the deep lessons of nature around us, all of which show us a way forward together, even when we are apart. When we are in person, we begin our service by inviting our children to process in with our many varied flowers. This morning, we will begin by sharing video clips and photos that you have sent in to me, the way that we have virtually collected our flowers together to show the spring beauty all around us and the beauty of our coming together, even in the ways we are finding now. I invite you to enjoy this video of clips and photos sent from you to us, and let's share them together.
We love wildflowers.
We love dandelions.
Hi, this is the Ivesons, and this is our wildflower garden. We started it last summer to attract bees and butterflies and hummingbirds, and it did that. And one of the things about establishing this kind of garden is that some of your things will not bloom the first year or the second year. So I was really surprised this spring to see this beauty, which is an Indian paintbrush. It did not bloom last year, but it was the very first thing to bloom in the second year.
I want to tell you why native columbine is one of my very favorite plants. So this is the native columbine. I like it because it is native, meaning it has evolved to support its community of fellow organisms. For example, it starts blooming in mid-April, just as the ruby-throated hummingbirds are arriving from their long migration. The columbine provides nectar to the hummingbirds, and the hummingbirds pollinate the columbine. I also like it because it is so adaptable. If you don't have the perfect dappled shade or loamy soil, it will still grow. It grows even in my heavy clay soil. Finally, I like it because it is tough and resilient. It looks so delicate, but you frequently see it growing on rocky slopes or even in the crack of a cliff. So it supports its community of organisms. It's adaptable, tough and resilient, and, did I mention beautiful?
These flowers are spring beauties, which dot the woodlands this time of year on the Missouri farm where I grew up. As a kid, I loved roaming the woods, pretending the lush mosses were velvet cushions, and picking tiny bouquets of spring beauties and Dutchman's breeches to later press into books and make dried flowers. I love them because they're impossibly dainty and delicate while still being tough native plants. Magical.
My favorite flower is the forget-me-not. I remember when I first saw it growing in wild profusion at Point Reyes Park in California, and it just took my breath away.
And so here I am in our sanctuary with the flowers that you gathered and brought to the church yesterday, for those who were able to. And I'd like to invite you to join with me in lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, at home or digitally. And join me in lifting your voices in homes across our city, country, and world to share our weekly words of affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We will now join in singing our opening hymn, I Know This Rose Will Open. It is a simple chant, but it's sung in a round, which you know I love. And this version is performed by UU musician Jess Hoydeman. I invite you to join with her in singing from home.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. 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 I know my fear will I know this rose 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 will I know this fears will I know my fears will I know my fear will I know this fear will I know this rose 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 will I know this fears will I know this fears will I know this fear will I know this fear will I know this rose 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 will open.
Good morning. As we've been preparing for this service all week, I've spent a lot of time looking at flowers and being reminded again of their amazing, complex beauty. After looking at all those photos of you, I'm reminded of all of your beauty. For our centering today, I really want to take a moment to sink into that beauty. And so what I invite you to do is, if you can, we're going to go outside for 2 minutes, so set a timer and come back at the end of it. If you feel like staying inside, we'll also put an image on the screen, but I want you to find a flower and let yourself really sink into it. Let its colors wash over you. Really notice its structure, the way its petals unfurl. So let's take some time now to go appreciate a flower.
So let us return from that communion with a flower, remembering that today our communion with flowers is also the way that we are communing in spirit with one another and our very diverse beauty. And so as we have sunk into the beauty of flowers, let us now sink into the beauty of the lives of our community. Beauty that doesn't always mean joy, but that means human lives are beautiful amid everything that we go through. And it is in that spirit that together each week we share our joys, our sorrows, our hopes and worries and prayers, holding those together, sitting before them together and marveling at all that is our lives. Knowing that in that we are not alone, but held by our community. And that the strengths and beauty of each of our community members helps to hold us. Sorrow, several that were submitted at our site. Let us join our hearts with Karen Dwyer, who shares sorrow for the death of Joyce Snow of Columbia, who died April 22nd, and sorrow for the death of Brian Price of Louisville, Kentucky, who died April 5th. Let us join our hearts with Joan and Steve Mudrick, who ask you to hold their daughter Tanya in your hearts as she grieves the death of her 41-year-old wife, Lavender, from cancer, and begins her new life as a single mom. I invite you to join your hearts with Lisa Kent, who shares joy and gratitude for family, both immediate and extended, for the presence and vitality of husband and children, for siblings and parents and shared history that has made her who she is, for aunts and uncles and cousins, grandparents and ancestors, and connection to an entire family of human family. And let us continue to send our love to Wayne Anderson, who is on hospice care at home. Wayne is enjoying receiving emails and cards from his church friends and remembering his connection to all of us. Phone calls wear him out, but we do very much encourage that you continue to send him messages via email and snail mail. His daughters read those to him daily, and they lift his spirits immensely. You can find his contact info in our directory online. And I'd like to now invite you to share your own joys and sorrows in the chat. I will read aloud as many as I am able. We join one among us who is thankful for their mothers. We join Burr in joy for new togetherness, thanks to the distancing. We join our members who are holding Joan and Steve in heart. We join our hearts with Dottie Matthews, who shares joy for asylum seekers finding their way to loving new sponsors even in these times. We join our hearts with Jackie Bell, who is marking her first Mother's Day without her mother. We join our hearts with Marcia for the opportunity to be a mother, with Robin for joy at a better relationship with her mother, talking almost every day during quarantine. We join our hearts with Jan, who shares joy of grandchildren moving back to Florida, Barb, who shares joy in the child who made her a mom. Continued concern with Jean and with many in our community for Elaine Martin and Rob Bartell, as Rob remains in the hospital suffering complications from his stroke, and as COVID makes it impossible for Elaine to be by his side in body, though she is, of course, in spirit. We join our hearts with Lynn for granddaughter and all connected to a preschool teacher who's tested positive for COVID. We join our hearts with Susan at joy for the treasures found here in our services, even from a distance. Join with Barb in sorrow for moms whose children are away or gone. From Karen, gratitude for a Mother's Day surprise of chocolate-covered strawberries on the porch. With Angie, we join joy for having not one but two beautiful and loving mothers. We join with Dottie in thinking of all the mothers who have complicated relationships with children. With Patty, we join in sorrow for Ahmad Arbery and his family, and for all lost to the violence of white supremacy. We join with Ben, who is grateful to have helped a friend who was suicidal, but who now cherishes every moment. And we join him as well with a deep concern for all those suffering mental illness and addiction, complicated or worsened by the pandemic and its isolation. We join with Pac, who shares gratitude for daughters, and with Rebecca, who shares gratitude for stepdaughters who have made her life better and more beautiful. We join with Sarah in joy for planting flowers and vegetables. With Stacy, who regrets her choices that have led her to spend Mother's Day finishing a department budget. We join with Robin in sorrow for all those who cannot be with their mothers in person, to share their meals or other traditions. We join with Patty, who shares joy for our beautiful grounds. We celebrate with Stacy, who celebrates gratitude for 29 years sober today. Amen. And we join our hearts with just so much that is on the minds and hearts and in the spirits of our community. We hold all of this together, and we know that it too is a beautiful bouquet of our humanity. We're going to close this time of prayer and sharing together by singing our hymn that we often sing to wrap up our time of prayer, Singing with You. It shows our faith that it is really for Unitarian Universalists what we do that is our prayer. So Singing with You is our prayer. And Jeremy and I are going to try something new. We're going to lead you together. But because of the delay, we can't sing together, but we're going to alternate verses and lead you in singing together from home. So we invite you to join us, and Jeremy will start.
Singing, singing with you is my prayer.
Growing with you is my prayer.
Blooming with you is my prayer.
Zooming with you is my prayer.
Singing with you is my prayer.
We are now going to share as our reading this morning a folktale from India as told by a Catholic monk. So enjoy our story this morning.
And then I'm talking. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Hello, friends. How are you? Thank you so much for helping me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jesus.
2, 1, action! friends, here's your monk. I'm sitting in the middle of a field of flowers, and the legend I will tell you today comes from India. And I will also make drawings for you to illustrate it. Listen. Once upon a time, there was a man who used to carry water to his village every day in 2 pots hung at each end of a pole which he carried across his neck. One of the water pots had a crack, and every time the man arrived at his home, half of the water was lost. One day, the pot said to him, "Master, I'm so ashamed." The man asked, "Why, little jar?" "Because I have a crack, and because of me, you lose half of the water along the way." "Look at the other pot, so perfect, so full. I'm so worthless. Please just throw me away. It's better." The man smiled. "You want me to throw you away, little jar?" "Yes. Okay, but before, I want to show you something. What do you see on this side of the path?" "I see green grass." "And what do you see on the other side?" "Dry dirt." "Now watch closely. What more do you see?" "I see flowers." "And on the other side, nothing. You see, my little jar, I always knew you were cracked, but I also saw that nature was more lovely on your side. So I planted flower seeds, and every day, without being aware of it, you have been watering them. I have picked many of them to offer to my wife and to my children, and thanks to you, these flowers grow for the joy of humans and for the glory of God." That's how the story ends. So, I just want to ask you one thing. Do you really think that God is not able to use your imperfections to make his plan of love come true? Be blessed, friends. Cut! It's finished!
So I was thinking of this story this week because my kids are obsessed with water play, and they make water play everywhere, and they've figured out how to climb up on things to get to the sinks. And they have these toys that they like to fill with water and carry to other parts of the house, but the toys are not watertight, and so they just leave water just streaming on the floor all the way through the house. And I want to say that sometimes a cracked jug waters wildflowers, but sometimes water spills all over the floor and yields spectacular slips and falls. So it's not all so beautiful and meaningful. But I was thinking that this spilling of water feels a lot like these times that we're in right now, that we have this time, this life force, this energy, we have these plans, and now with everything spun so far out of our control, it just feels like it's all just slipping through our fingers. We can't even hold it. I get to the end of the day and I wonder, what have I even done today? Because it just all is slipping through my fingers. It's like I'm trying to hold water in my hands and it doesn't work. It doesn't stay. It just falls to the ground. And so sometimes it falls on a tile floor and we slip and we fall and we hurt ourselves. And that is true. But this story inspires me to wonder about these times. With all of the energy, with all of the time, with all of the potential that feels like it is slipping through the cracks, what is that energy and potential falling upon? And what is being watered there? And is there something that might be growing there? And so I'm inspired by the story to ask myself, what is blooming around and behind me, even as I'm moving through these times? And if I can notice that, will I find something there? What are we watering with our disappointment? What are we watering with our tears? What are we watering with all that is falling away and slipping through the cracks? Now, we can take this metaphor even a step further, because we know right now that there are systems. If our lives are these water jugs with cracks, we know that there are systems that are taking these jugs and smashing them on the ground, and that there are people who are being sacrificed at the altar of economic gain. We know from history that this has always been the case. As we practice our flower communion this morning, this beautiful, simple little ritual that Norbert Capek created, it's all brought into perspective when you realize that Norbert Capek himself, this Unitarian minister who created this simple little flower ritual, he was murdered in a concentration camp by Nazis, because they said, quote, that his message was too dangerous for him to be allowed to live as a Unitarian who valued difference, who valued people thriving together amid their difference. And so his jug was smashed on the ground, as so many are violently in these systems that we live in. And yet, his simple little ritual, his message has spread across the world, is a source of deep meaning, is a source of remembering the truly countercultural power in our difference. And so I wonder what it would be as well to look for the beautiful communion, to look for the triumph of community growing up every place where empire smashes jugs or seeks to pour our lives out on the ground. There's a saying that arose from a revolution in Mexico. They tried to bury us, but they didn't realize we were seeds or water or sunlight. And so as we think about all that is falling through the cracks, what is that watering? What is blooming and growing there? What beauty? We ask it not just in a personal sense, but in a global and radical sense. What is blooming around and behind us in our communities as we move through these times, even as many who govern make it worse with violent policy decisions? Still there is water, still there are seeds, still there is community growing. And so we ask as well, what are we watering even amid the violence of systems that seek to sacrifice us and our beloveds? What are we watering in our lives? What are we watering in our communities with all that is slipping away through the cracks? Sometimes we will slip and fall from it, but I think that also if we look, we will find that there is something beautiful growing. And so I invite you in the days to come, in the weeks to come, to give that attention and to see what that might be. And I'm going to now engage in the second part of our flower ceremony ritual, which is to consecrate and present our flowers. Every year, we use the words that Norbert Capek first used in 1923 when he first created this ritual to bless our flowers. And then every year when we're in person, our children distribute the flowers so that each of you takes home a different flower than the one you brought. This morning, what I'm going to do is bless with a touch the flowers while reading aloud your names from my screen, so that each of you is dedicated to a flower and to a blessing of something beautiful that is growing in this time. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship. But may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. And so I will now share flowers with each of you, beloveds, a symbol of our communion, even across this strange distance, a symbol of the beauty that we are watering, even with our tears, even with all the possibility that is running through our fingers and slipping through the cracks. Here are flowers for you. Alan and Carol, Alicia, Allie, Amy, Andrew, and Sarah, Angie, Lingo, Ottens, April, Barb, Barbara, Barbie, Jackie, Ben, Burr, Carol, Karen, Chuck and Jan, Sierra, Connie and Ordways, David, Deb, Desi, Ellen, Gina, Gretchen, Jim, Jan, Janet, Janice, Jean, Joe and Meredith, Katie and Melissa, Kevin, Lisa, Kim, Laura, and Laura, and Laura, Linda, and Linda, Mark, and Bonnie, and James, Mary, Matthew, Megan, Michael, Mindy, John, Nancy, Nix, Pack, Pam, Patty, Brian, Kira, Dottie, Rosie, Ruth, Roger, Kathy, Rosie, Roy, Sam, Sarah, and Sarah, and Sarah, and Sarah, and Shannon, and Sharon, and Emily, and Stacy, and Stephen, and Joan, and Susan, and Steve, and the Buffalo family, and Tim, and Alberta, and the Ivesons, and Wynn. Dear ones, may new and wild beauty make its way through all of the cracks in your days. I miss you, I love you, and with these flowers, I bless you and give thanks for your beautiful lives. We are now going to hear a piece from our choir from their homes. Yay! Thank you so much to our choir members and to Jeremy and Hans for putting that together. So cool to see you all singing together, even if it's only online together. Thank you so much for that. So this morning obviously marks Mother's Day, which is a beloved day for some and a complicated day for others, maybe both at once. And so whether you are feeling joy in parenting or being parented, or grief in losing mother or child or dream of parenting, or harm in having been loved poorly, or fulfillment in being loved well, connection or alienation, or some mix of gratitude and sorrow for any number of reasons, our prayers are with you today. Our prayers are with people of all genders who nurture, which in the end is all of us. And on this particular Mother's Day Sunday, 60 days into a time we never imagined enduring, I'd like to share with you this prayer written by my colleague, the Reverend Sarah Goodman, called prayer for parenting in a pandemic. And so this one particularly goes out there to all the parents. This is a prayer for parenting in a pandemic. A prayer for the dirty laundry and piled up dishes. A prayer for dance parties and cuddle puddles, for long walks and improvised science experiments, for screen time as education and distraction. This is a prayer for working parents Zooming another meeting with a little face joining in, for new parents waiting for new life without support, for the single parents doing this all alone, for parents who are on the front lines and essential workers who worry every day about being away from home, about bringing something home, about holding it all together as you hold the world together. This is a prayer for the more than 200 meals you've made, for the 100 millionth time you've heard, "Can I have a snack?" For the 5 minutes of alone time you can squeak out every day. For the 2, 4, 6, 60 gray hairs you have acquired so far. This is a prayer for the meltdowns, the missed naps, the many, many tears, the distance learning homework no one wants to do, but still somehow feel the need to fight about. This is a prayer for wondering if they will ever fall asleep, for wondering if they will ever get up, a prayer for pretending that you're enjoying yourself while you play all their favorite games. This is a prayer for all the missed milestones, for holding your child as they cry over missing their friends, missing their prom, missing their graduation, for your own tears because you can't fix this problem. And this is for the milestones still marked, the birthday party parades, the Zoom proms hosted by celebrities, the family celebrations of learning to walk and the first lost tooth, the private, personal celebrations of the many ways you've watched your children grow and mature right close up. This prayer is for all the newly formed family bands and midday pajama-clad dance parties, for all the backyard bathing, for the new trampolines, new bikes, new play structures, a prayer for inside obstacle courses, new crafts, for all the pets that have joined new families. This is a prayer for bonding and breaking, for togetherness and too much togetherness. This is a prayer for love, for anger, for grief, for love, for time out of time. This is a prayer for parenting in a pandemic. Amen. And so now is the time in our service each week when we join in the spiritual practice of generosity, guiding our hearts away from the fear and scarcity that is all around us, and remembering that it is by sharing and supporting one another that we feel most human. This week, we continue our practice of regularly taking faith to action collections to support organizations doing important work on behalf of love and service in our community and beyond. These organizations are chosen by our social action team after they receive congregational nominations. And the team is now taking nominations for the fall's recipients, and we will post the link in the chat. This week's Faith to Action collection is for Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture. You will be able to give at the link we will post in the chat, where you will select Faith to Action as a designated fund, or you can mail a check to the church with Faith to Action in the memo line. All funds collected this way this morning will go to the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture, and we are very grateful to their executive director, Billy Polanski, for joining us this morning to tell us a bit about what they're up to these days. And I am going to turn it over to Billy now. Thank you for joining us, Billy.
Thank you for having me, and happy Mother's Day. to everybody. I don't know. I have some pictures here. Are we can put those up? Because me sitting in my bedroom isn't super
Yes,
exciting.
pull 'em up.
So I just to talk. Okay, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about what CCUA is doing during, this strange COVID-19, life we're living, and just how we're trying to reach out and get food to people and help people become backyard gardeners. There's a lot of interest in growing food at home right now, and rightly so. A lot of people are struggling with unemployment, and grocery stores are scary places these days. And so people are interested in where their food comes from and taking a little bit more control over, producing it themselves. And so if you can go to the next slide, and talk a little bit about some of the really fun stuff. We do a lot of programming with kids, and so we've been doing some virtual programming. We're really trying to help get kids engaged outdoors right now, exploring their backyards and their backyard gardens and parks and things like that. So we've had our Stay Home Weekly Cash Challenge, where we are encouraging kids to produce pieces of art that is based on a theme. And you can see here, we have some of our past winners here. The themes are everything from, veggies on your plate, or worms was a theme one week. So we're just trying to get kids to explore the outdoors, think about eating fresh and healthy. And the winner, the kid who wins, gets a $100 prize. So it's a really fun contest we've been doing every week. And it's something that you can get your kids involved with every week. They have to submit by Thursday, so there's still time to participate this week. This week's theme is leaves, so lots of fodder there. All right, next slide, please. We have been distributing free seeds to some of the little free libraries around town. And so 3 times a week, we are going by, and the list that we're delivering to is on our website, columbiaurbanag.org. And so we're putting seasonally appropriate seeds out there so you can start your garden. Next slide, please. We're doing a lot of virtual programming as well. So we have our garden side chats, which are happening now 3 days a week, where we are talking about different gardening issues. We've had topics from, planting collard greens to raising chickens and composting, planting tomatoes, weeding, gardening tools to use. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon. And we've had some cooking topics too. So we're live streaming it on Facebook, and their videos are also available to view on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. We're also having lots of kids programming as well. So every day at 10, we have our Veg Out kids activities. And so this is everything from story time to cooking activities that kids can do with their parents, science experiments, just lots of fun stuff to keep kids engaged. They can watch it by themselves or with an adult. And, again, these are also on our Facebook page. They're streamed live, but you can watch them afterwards on Facebook or on YouTube. Next photo, please. So our Opportunity Gardens program, where in this program we train families who live with low income to be successful backyard gardeners. This program is still happening. You can see some photos here. We're helping families while still socially distancing and keeping everybody safe. Right now, people are stuck at home, and we need to continue to provide them with these skills. It's important now more than ever to make sure that families can grow their own food and that they can have healthy, nutritious options on the dinner table. And so we're really excited to be able to continue to do this and continue to consistently train about 100 families a year. All right, next slide, please. A new program we're starting this year is our Veterans Urban Farm. This is at the site that most of you probably know about or have been to. We used to just call it the Urban Farm, but this year we're starting a new partnership with the Truman VA to create a therapeutic site for the VA hospital to help treat their patients. So they're using the site. Our staff and their staff are sort of working together out there as a job. We have a job training program through their transitional work program at the VA. That's mostly what's happening out there right now. When COVID-19 becomes less of a thing, the VA will start bringing patients out there to do classes like yoga and Tai Chi. They'll have counseling and therapy sessions in the garden. We'll have community events for veterans and their families. So we're really excited about this program and our partnership with the VA, and it's just really exciting that the Urban Farm can take on a new life as CCUA's headquarters moves over to the Agriculture Park, which is on the next slide. So the Agriculture Park, which is where the ARC and the Farmers Market is located, is our new home base. This 10 acres of city parkland has been we've slowly been redeveloping it. The Farmers Market is there, and they have the first phase of their building is built. Right now, if you drive by, you can see CCUA is growing food out there for our Planting for the Pantry program. All the food that we grow out here at the Ag Park is donated to the Central Pantry and other hunger relief agencies. At this site, we anticipate once fully developed, which is going to be over a course of years, be able to produce about 50,000 pounds of food for our neighbors in need. And so in addition to being an interactive city park, we're going to have a lot of opportunities to give back to the community. And currently right there, you'll see our barn and greenhouse pop up this year. The one-room schoolhouse is almost done being built, where one day we'll be able to have classroom activities and be able to host groups of kids out there at the Ag Park. Okay, I think there's one more slide. So through our Planting for the Pantry program, at the Urban Farm, we've been producing about 17,000 pounds of food. And at the as the Veterans Urban Farm, we're going to be donating all the food we grow at the Urban Farm this year, with more of a focus on supporting veterans and homeless veterans and families of veterans who are in need. but we'll also be growing food at the ag park too. So, this year we anticipate probably being producing over 25,000 pounds of food through these sites. And, we've been working with the food pantries. We actually have been working with the county to purchase food from local farmers to donate to the food pantry. So this is a relief program for local farmers and for families who need that fresh food. The use of food pantries is up about 40% nationally. And with all of the unemployment and sort of the economic issues we're seeing, we need to support families, and we need to make sure that they can have fresh, healthy food. So whether it's training people, it's growing food to donate, or whether it's purchasing food from farmers to donate, CCUA is doing what we can to make sure that people have access to healthy food during this time. And even when COVID is over, poverty isn't going to go away. We're going to continue to do this work and train people and make sure people have fresh food to eat. So your donations today through Faith to Action will support our Planting for the Pantry program, which directly supports the food that we donate to the food pantries and our educational programs. So thank you all for having me today, and happy Mother's Day. And Mother's Day is typically the day we think of planting our tomato plants. You might want to wait a couple days because it looks like we're going to have some cold nights, but it's a very exciting time of the gardening season. Is the time when you put those tomatoes in. That's really, for many people, the true start of gardening is tomatoes. So maybe go buy your tomato plants today, plant them later this week when it warms up a little bit, and I wish everybody a happy gardening season. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Billy, and for all you do over there at CCUA. Congregation, as we invite you to make a contribution to our Faith to Action collection and to CCUA, you can visit our website in the chat to donate, or you can mail a check. And while we give you a moment to do that, we're going to invite you to enjoy a performance of the song Dear Theodosia from Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda, as performed by our UUCC band in honor of Mother's Day. And this might look a little startling to you because it's a recording in our sanctuary with people standing close together. So I want to assure you that this recording was made in 2018, and we are revisiting it today, and I hope that you enjoy.
Cried, and it broke my heart.
son, when you smile, I fall apart, and I thought I was so smart. My father wasn't around. I swear that I'll be around for you. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll make a million mistakes. I'll make the world safe and sound for you. We'll come of age with our young nation. We'll bleed and fight for you. We'll make it right for you. If we lay a strong enough foundation, we'll pass it on to you. We'll give the world to you, and you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday. Yeah, you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday.
Our closing words are from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Even now, especially now, you are not alone. We are with you across the distance. Go in blessing, friends, and be a blessing to a world that needs our care. I invite you to put your hand on your heart or join hands with those who are in your home to join together in singing our benediction.